Well, good morning to you once again. Welcome to Solutions Clinic. Exactly 21 minutes gone past the hour of 10, and it's about time we talk about our health. Like I would always say, a healthy life is your ticket to a wealthy life, and I do hope that you continually have made your health a priority. Welcome to Solutions Clinic this day, the 24th day of June 2024. My name is Vic Riches, and like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about cholera this morning. Well, by way of introduction, cholera is a severe diarrhea disease caused by bacterium Vibrio cholera. It spread through contaminated water and food, primarily affecting regions with inadequate water treatment, poor sanitation, and limited access to clean water. Cholera can cause rapid dehydration due to the loss of fluids from intense diarrhea and vomiting. And if left untreated, it can be fatal within hours. According to the report by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC), a total number of 1,159 suspected cases, 65 confirmed cases, and 30 deaths have so far been recorded across 30 states in Nigeria since the outbreak. The Minister of State for Environment, Dr. Isiaq Salako, said that most states affected with about 90% of the total cases includes Bayelsa, Lagos, Zamfara, Abia, Bauchi, Cross Rivers, Ebonyi, Delta, and Katsina states. However, he urged Nigerians to be more vigilant to prevent the spread of cholera by imbibing good sanitation and hygiene practices at home and in their workplaces, as well as disposing of waste properly. Joining me this morning for this conversation is Dr. Chukuma Okoli. Good morning to you, Doc. It's great to have you join us.
Good morning.
And you look great, regardless of whatever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, so let's start off with the figure we're seeing by the NCDC. It expects the suspected cases of cholera right now at 1,159.
Yes.
Why are they called suspected cases? And if they are not cholera,
Okay.
what could they be?
Thank you. Suspected because the symptoms that are manifested by those patients look like cholera. But before you can make your diagnosis, you have to take the stool, the watery stool of such a patient, and then you will have to get out the pathogen, which is Vibrio cholerae. You have to be able to bring it out from the stool. So if you now do, you have confirmed the diagnosis. That's just being clinical. You really want to be
Okay.
sure. So if it is not cholera, it could be any diarrheal disease. Food poisoning can cause it. Any diarrheal disease. Viral illnesses can cause the intestines to produce excessive fluid, and the patient would start stooling. Okay, yes. So irritable bowel syndrome too can cause that frequent stooling and all that. So a lot of things can produce the same similar symptom. But until you take that sample of the stool and be able to isolate Vibrio cholerae from it, that's when you can confirm, oh, this is cholera. But then, the clinical symptoms are actually straightforward. I mean, you can't miss it. Within few hours, the patient can lose between 10 liters of fluid if nothing is done. That's why this cholera is absolutely fatal if not treated. Because when they start passing, you watch them go down if you don't do anything about it. So the fact that some of them will even right there on the floor be passing the stool, and before you know it, they are gone. It kills within the snap of a finger. It's very deadly, and that's why you see everybody screaming and shouting. Once it outbreaks like this, everybody beware, because one thing that we still lack in this country, aside personal hygiene, is the environmental hygiene. You see,
Right.
those two, they are the two petrol that can fuel the fire of cholera if we don't take heed. As much as I always push up my personal campaign of drink water, I'll tell you, of course, drink potable water, drink clean water, drink healthy water.
We'll
Not
get right
just anywhere.
into
Exactly.
that drinking water part.
Yes.
But before that, you've mentioned symptom, which is diarrhea, which
Yes.
could be peculiar to other illnesses as well. So other than diarrhea, are there other symptoms that we should pay attention to?
Yes, of course, with cholera comes, of course, generalized body weakness, muscle spasm, muscle pain, abdominal pain, okay, cramps that comes with it because of frequent stooling. So those are the symptoms that come with it. Fever is not so common in them, but there's generalized weakness. That is, as much as they continue stooling, they continue losing body electrolytes, okay, and then they start becoming weak. They lose electrolytes such as potassium, and potassium helps the muscle to stay solid. So when they keep losing this, they start becoming weak, and then fever occasionally in some people, then the abdominal cramps that comes with this stooling, the retching, the vomiting may come in along the line. So those are the symptoms that surround cholera infection, as it were.
How frequent should this stooling become that, I should get worrisome as a person? How frequent do I visit the toilet, or do I stool that it becomes a problem? Because, I mean, with stomach obsession, you stool as well,
Yes,
watery
true,
stool,
true.
etc.
Now, the thing is this: if you have been to the toilet more than 3 times, or you notice that your stool has become like water, as a matter of fact, rice water. If you want to know what rice water looks like, it's just like diluting palm wine. Diluted palm wine. That's how rice water looks like. Or, of course, everybody cooks rice. We've all cooked rice at one point or the other. By the time you pour water inside the rice and
The
then
starchy
yes,
part of
yes, especially after parboiling and you want to wash off the
Yes.
starchy part, you see that particular look. That's how cholera stool looks like. And if you know anybody passing such, that's the time for you to take off because you're at risk. Yes, you're at risk. And then how is it spread? It's by coming in contact with the stool of an infected person. And then, of course, we talked about the poor personal hygiene. Aside from the environmental hygiene, those two, they go hand in hand. If you have a good personal hygiene, you can't stay in a dirty environment. So most people that are staying around dirty places, they themselves are dirty. And that's why they're at risk of catching it. And
Right.
overcrowding worsens it. I worked in a community once, somewhere in Ondo State, about over 10 years ago, where we were called about a case of cholera. We actually went to the community to pick the person. So when we went the second time, I was telling someone, I said, this looks like cholera. We need to pay attention to it. We actually had to alert the government, who sent the team, and they indeed confirmed that the community was down. We had to seal off the community. Even we took our own life in our hands to be in that community to treat them. We had to go treat them there because taking them out doesn't make sense. Yes, they started dying. So we had to step in, and thank God, we lost a handful, probably like less than 10. But unlike what could have been, could have wiped the whole community out if we didn't take those
Precautions.
precautions. And thank God we could actually say we saved a lot more than we lost.
Speaking of precautions, the last time we had, a surge of cholera like this was in 2020 COVID era, because there was some association with COVID.
Yes.
And in 2022, there were also recorded cases.
Yes.
So as a people and as a government, as a health sector, what didn't we do right to curb the constant resurgence of cholera that we see?
Thank you. Now, unfortunately, cholera still, there's little thing that the government can do. It is basically people dependent. Yes, and that's why I still latch on personal hygiene. Now, fine, the government has theirs, which is to keep the environment clean, okay? All those, the gutters that are spilling out onto the road. So when you keep the environment safe, you make our environment safer for us. Cholera doesn't find its way. It gets into the way when feces mixes with food. So if feces can be properly disposed of, then it will not find its way to the food.
Because
that
I
we
hear
can
housefly, they are instruments in transporting those feces.
Yes, because they latch on feces and they latch on food. So that's the government's role now, to make the environment safe. So if the environment is safe, then how can you want to eat, you buy your food inside nylon, and then you even get to where you want to eat the food, so you just leave the nylon open, and then you went to gist, gossip, or to settle issue, and you come back and you now start eating the food again without even remembering to wash your hand. Poor personal hygiene. So it's a two-way thing, and they go hand in hand. You keep the environment clean, so you do away with the feces and other things that can be transported by those hosts and so on. So eventually, now individually, we too now have to keep our own personal hygiene top-notch so that we can avoid cholera. It goes hand in hand.
I think for me, the reason I mentioned the government is because one of the leading cause of this has been said to be open defecation.
Yes.
And this is something I think that the government can control in
I
a
agree
way.
with you. That's why I mentioned
Yes.
that they come in there. They have to handle it. They have to. The sewer system, that we don't have a proper sewer system disposal still. Individual. Look at water. Let's look at water. It used to be pipe-borne water. It used to be water corporation. Now what is it? Borehole. Every
Boreholes.
house is drilling their own borehole. The government is telling us what, be independent, right? Now let me tell you, electricity too is becoming another issue. People are going on solar.
Solar.
So the government is not doing enough. They have their hands full. The ones they haven't have did not solve. The security is not solved, and other things. Food self is very expensive. Not to talk of people still go to the market to pick leftover items, and those flies would have feasted on those tomatoes from morning till night, and then you just buy it and then wash and then cook and eat, and then before you know it, one will start soon. Even if cholera is not a problem, the other things are there. Food poisoning is there. Food poisoning can kill a man overnight. Yes. So we have to be careful. I remember a friend of mine made a video about Esha. This tomato they call Esha. Just go there and pick stuff that already, even itself, can create problem. Yes, it can because of those reaction of the tomato chemicals.
Those white
Yes, those things that are
particles
on
on
it.
it.
So the government has a lot of role to play. Fine, we as individuals need to keep our hygiene, our personal hygiene and environmental, immediate environmental hygiene. But how about the proper disposal of the sewage system of the community? Yes, that's where the government needs to look into. So as much as you tell us to take care of our own environment, you to take care of our environment. The ones we can't control, you do it for us.
Let's bring it down to the people, our role to play in this matter, especially with open defecation. I think that people do not understand because the excuse you hear is, I don't have a toilet, so I can't control it. I have to stool, I have to poo. And maybe because they're ignorant of the impact it has to their health. Maybe that's why they act this way. So is there a proper way for people in rural communities who possibly do not have toilets and would have to practice open defecation, which is wrong in its entirety?
Yeah.
Is there any way at all
Well,
to do this?
if it's possible, if it's actually true they don't have a toilet, there are ways they can dispose of the feces. Wrapped up, covered up, and disposed properly. This is the point. The moment you leave those feces open, you are inviting flies there. And the flies will latch on those things and now jump, follow you. Some will even stay on the clothes of some people while they are moving. And then when they get to the next destination, they fly off and they latch on food. So you have to properly find a way to dispose of the feces. Enclosed, wrap it up, tie it up. Don't leave it open. That's the problem. You may not have. If some people have pit latrine and they don't want to use it. Agreed. Whatever it is, whatever you are stooling, your poop should be well tied, well covered, well sealed up. I mean, every day people are throwing nylons away that are not even useful. Gather those nylons, use it, and use it wisely. The essence is, like Victor said, exposing the poop. That is the problem. Exposing it is where the problem is. You need to keep it closed, so that flies don't have access to it. If flies do not have access to it, it will reduce the spread of cholera.
Fair enough. Let's talk about water. You have been an advocate for drinking water in the longest time, and water is now a challenge. It's one of the primary causes of this, especially not taking clean water.
Yes, sir.
And you've mentioned rightly that if you go to different houses, what you find is borehole. I grew up when the government was supplying us water from
Water corporation.
corporation. That's how I grew up
Yes.
drinking. We're drinking tap water then
Yes.
because we knew it was treated water.
Yes. Yes.
But these days, even before the water gets to the tank in itself is dirty.
Yes.
And you don't even find people cleaning these tanks, especially if you don't own the properties. You live in a compound.
Yes.
You know, you don't find people taking responsibility of these
Yes.
things.
Even to pump water, some people don't even like to.
Is a challenge. So I think my question is, how then do you now take care of your water? Because you can't even tell that, especially if you're drinking. Pure water in itself is even expensive.
Okay.
Talking about the sachet water, you don't even know how these guys produce it, to be fair. You can't attest that the water they are giving to you is clean, and we just buy this water and directly into our mouths. So how do we manage situations like this?
Nigerians can be quite like a bicycle, and that is why I always say pay attention to your health. If you understand that you are at risk, and you actually understand what we're trying to say here, with the passion we drive these words out, you will know you need to take things seriously. Pay attention. Now, I stood one day and I was watching the tank of a building, and I saw birds perching on the water, standing at the mouth, and they were perching. The water was pouring off, and they were perching on it. Some days later, I learned that the water had changed taste, and they found carcass of 2 birds drowned, submerged under the water. I'm like, you see, they would have taken this water, used it to cook before they even found out. Another one is the well that most people have. For those who don't have borehole, who have well, you see that you won't even close the top, and then lizards will find their way inside, and some would even die under the water and decay, and then you'll be using the water to bath, and you notice some smell and then change of taste. You don't know you're eating, you're drinking decayed reptiles and all that. People should pay attention. If you're living in a house, whether you are the only one or you have neighbor, when you pay attention, that is, you want to see the tank, you want to see how things. Barely any house I live with, I always install there's this thing, the water filter. I've forgotten the plumbing name they call it.
That treats the water.
Yes, I will always install it. It would even not just treat, it would even sieve, and then from time to time I would call the plumber to come and change the sieve itself, the whitish sieve. By the time they bring out this sieve, something white would have become thick with mud because it has sieved over a period of 2 months, and I have to be changing. And for all the houses I've lived in, I've had to be the one responsible for it. I didn't mind because I was concerned about my own health.
Right.
You know, so if you pay attention, it's not because I'm a doctor. It's because, well, for me, my own health taught me how to. I kept having typhoid repeatedly. So I became observant about the type of water I drink. And for that reason, you have to don't wait until you start falling sick before you pay attention. So don't stay there and say, after all, I'm not the one who, whatever, I'm not this, I'm not that.
I'm not the only one using it.
I'm not the only one using it. If you feel you need to call it a meeting, you can call with other people. Everybody's waiting for who should take the first initiative, who should take the first step in making sure that things are properly done. Know where your tank is, know how clean the water is. And if you can't climb up, at least get a plumber to climb up and see what is going on around there. That means you are paying attention to your health. That way, when people are falling ill around you, are looking healthy and smart because you have taken a proactive step. It is best to stay healthy than to treat sickness.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening to Solutions Clinic this morning on the Remedy Dial Solutions 93.9 FM. I'm having a conversation with Dr. Chukwuma Okoli, and we're talking about cholera, as we've seen reports that it's surging, particularly in Lagos and other states of the Federation. Thankfully, we've not had recorded cases here in Ibadan, and that's the reason we want to raise this awareness to ensure that it remains so, and ultimately in other parts of the country, cholera is defeated. So if you do have questions regarding this, please, you can send it to 0904 422 2939. To call into the studio is 0909 888-9939 or 0912-222-2939. So in cases of emergency for cholera, and it's now a situation where the hospital is inaccessible, is far, what should be the first point of action?
Cholera can't be managed at home. That's a challenge. It has to be transported somehow to the hospital, unless you can get a health personnel who knows how to secure intravenous access, because such a person may not be able to drink as much as he or she is losing. That's why I said within a short time. In fact, symptoms start within 2 hours, as early as 2 hours, up to 5 days. So it's possible that the person would have started stooling a couple of times and probably had even become weak. And unfortunately for some people, before you know it, all veins are collapsed. So you need an experienced paramedic who can quickly secure intravenous access and start pumping IV fluid. Because in most terms, in most of the cases I've been involved in, I've not seen much of them that drank. And that's why when is it Ebola that came that we lost this Dr. Mrs. Stella Adadigo. So
yes,
is it Ebola? I can't remember. It was Ebola. In that situation,
was it Lassa fever?
No, I think it's Ebola. The woman that survived actually said she watched every one of them, pass on. But she had to tell herself, if these people are dying, me, I won't die, you. And she kept drinking. It's not everybody that has that strength and power to still drink while they were losing fluid. And that's the problem. So you need to secure an intravenous access and start pumping IV fluid into them. You start pumping fluid into them. So it's something that has to be managed in a place where you have a health personnel that understands the complications that can arise and start doing things to prevent them from even coming up at all.
I think my question is, why can't they drink? What's deterring the...
Yes, the cramps that comes, abdominal pain and the cramps, that's why. And then some can vomit at the same time while they are stooling.
So they don't see the point of drinking when you're going to take it out?
Since their tummy is paining them, so to speak, and they can't even, they don't even have the desire, strength to drink, they now will depend on whatever you give them through their veins. That's where the challenge is. So it's always best to secure intravenous access so you can pump in, not even in just one place. I saw someone that had it on all the four limbs. They sighted line on the four limbs and we're pumping fluid on the four limbs because he was as good. We thought probably,
It's gone.
but he eventually made it after taking 20 pints of drip.
Wow. So the recommendation of salt water, or what do you call this other
It's
one?
available, yes.
ORS.
Yes, for those who can drink. And that's why I still said for those who can drink. Now, for those who can drink, meaning they don't have the serious abdominal pain and they are not vomiting. So once there are no abdominal pain and they're not vomiting, let them drink as much as possible. But for those who have issues with that abdominal pain and the cramps, please let them have an intravenous access and you pump in fluid into them. You know, it's so fulfilling when you see somebody whose eyeballs are standing one, who looks like a ghost, who's, in fact, the side of the head had pushed in, even the mouth space had pushed in, like completely dehydrated, like almost out. And then eventually you see the person, the face becomes puffy again. It's good to see them come back to life. You literally knew you almost lost them, but now you have them. Cholera is dangerous, very dangerous.
The way my stomach is even upset just listening to this. My stomach is not even being friendly at all. It just makes me, the imaginations of these whole things scares me, let alone, see, take your health seriously. This is not even joke. Now let's go back to food.
Okay.
You've mentioned, people buy food in nylons and, they probably leave it open and go ahead of doing something else. Or you see people even go into the toilet, of course, they just went to ease themselves, either via urine or and they just come out of the toilet without washing their hands. When COVID came, the whole culture of washing hands became a routine. All of a sudden, it has disappeared. Nobody cares about that anymore.
Well, it's just in the hospitals. Kudos to all health practitioners. You guys are doing great. They still keep to hand washing. Of course, they know, they see. So if you're a health worker and you don't do that, you know what you are signing up for. Yes. So people still do. Now, hand washing is top notch. Okay, top notch. I expect that every organization should have a sink, washing hand basin, corner where you wash, and then the next beside it is a hand sanitizer. So if you are listening, you have a business outfit, or you work in a company where your input can be, felt, please let the hand sanitizing appear again, and let the hand washing appear again. Not just in hospitals, it should be in every facility, because your door handle, you don't know who has touched it. Yeah, you don't know. So maybe they deposited Vibrio cholerae on it, and then you collect it and then go and eat amala. And you will think it is the amala you ate that is doing you.
You will actually blame the food.
You will be blaming the food. That is the food. Some of us will even make the assessment of food poisoning, thinking it is food, not knowing that it is from your poor hand washing hygiene. I've done so much research. In fact, I took a course on monitoring evaluation in global health. Almost all the examples there were centered on hand hygiene. And of course, I understand. I was arguing with my lecturer there from University of Washington, and I'm like, "Why are you guys so much centered on?" He said, "Don't you know your problem in Africa? You don't wash hands." I'm like, "Come on, is it that bad?"
No, honestly, I think that for us as a people, we see that hand washing as punishment, especially if you go to facilities and they tell you before you ask. I remember then during COVID, you want to get into the bank and the security guy directs you to you just sigh because you're upset. Why should I wash my hand?
Yes. That's what every example said. In fact, my project centered on hand hygiene. I was like, oh, God, man, what is all this? But then, and then, in recent times, I stood in the reception and watched some of the nurses. And then once they come out, like their own, once they step out of the ward, so if they go to the ward 10 times, they will apply hand sanitizer. And they wash first. In fact, if you're entering the hospital, you see the giant white basin. You wash your hand, you see there's a soap and the water, and then you don't need to rinse with cloth. Dry with cloth. No, just leave your hand to dry by air, and then you step inside. You see the sanitizer staring at you. You take, and if I even notice, if I even in churches has to bring it up again.
Actually,
please let's be that conscious. Churches, public places, mosques, any public gathering, please let the washing basins and then the hand sanitizers reappear again before it gets expensive. I beg, man, I go buy them.
Oh, that's true. That's another angle to really pay attention to. But still talking about food. In your opinion, is this a good time to buy food outside? Because I'm really worried. You do not understand how these meals were made.
True, very true. As I said, they won't come for us.
Not to, bring down anybody's business, but I don't know. I don't know if this is a good time to actually buy food outside.
It's not actually.
You really want to be careful of where you eat.
But Nigerians, like I said, Nigerians can really be lackadaisical. Really, really, really. This is when somebody will wake up and say he wants to eat asun, he wants to eat shawarma, he wants to eat. And some of these things, ordinarily, even when they are well prepared, can purge you.
Cause problem.
Ordinarily, when they are well made, can purge. Not to now talk of now that you don't know how safe the cabbage was preserved. You don't know how safe the salad cream was preserved. You don't know how safe even the ingredients, the meat and whatever it is were preserved. And then you have to just take number one carcinogen. I'll throw in your stomach. Even the number one carcinogen, do you know how it was preserved? How freezing was the freezer that kept it? We need to be careful.
And still on food too. I've heard that heating up your food before eating can be very impactful.
Yes.
Does it in any
Yes.
way stop anything?
Yes, of course, yes. Heating can destroy the bacteria. It's a bacteria, Vibrio cholerae. It's a bacteria. So food warming is important. Don't say you are too hungry and then you pick, it's warm, it's warm, it's warm. Please heat it up. Burn it up. Let it be hot. And then eat, but don't let your tongue be burned. So, but at least just burn it up and then you can eat healthy food. It's important. And then preserve, if you did not finish, that's why cook the proper proportion of the food you can eat at once. They will say gas and call. God will help us. There's so much challenges everywhere.
I'm telling you, because you want to do it this way, you remember the side
In fact,
effect that comes with
I
it.
can feel the pulse of people listening like, see, these guys are talking about we should not buy food. Come and give me gas now. Come and give me this, come and give me that. Just make sure that you are eating from very healthy places. And the question, how do you know how healthy they are? I bought food and then I got home and then opened and the rice was drawing. Now fried rice they draw.
Okra soup.
Fried rice. So I just packaged the whole thing. I said, well, Chooks, you've eaten. And I went to take Gary and I enjoyed myself. So the challenges are everywhere. If you say, okay, cooking is expensive, buying food is cheaper, as some people say, let's just be careful. That's all.
That's it too. For one place that I really worry for is the school environment. I think it's one place that is prone to coming down. Yeah, exactly, and I think for the age grade, I think they are reporting it's more susceptible to children below 5 or above 5, that age range.
Yes, and also even the secondary school children.
Because they use the same toilets.
They won't even listen to them. I'm sure most of them.
No, let's even say for their teachers and their parents as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you are listening, look, it's important that when your children get home, the first thing. Some people say have hand sanitizers around in their bag. As you are greeting them, hello, all of you gather. Just press it on their hand one by one. Whenever I come to the consulting room and then those children come in, I'll just pick the thing and pour for them. Even children that are just 1 year, 2 years, I already taught them. Some will even, once you see them trying to rub, they may even rub the thing well, but at least they understand what you are doing. Please, hand sanitizing, personal hygiene, very important. Teach your female children once they go to the toilet and they come out, they should wash. The guys too. Don't say because you went to wee. Even urine can touch your hand. Some of you sit on the place and then you rinse up. Your hand needs to be washed. Let's just start. It starts with personal hygiene. Okay. While we wait for the government to fix the other ones, let's also fix our own selves so that in the midst of it, you boost your immunity. We've seen people, nobody knows, but people may have come in contact with this Vibrio cholerae, but because they have good immune system, it will block it off. So when we keep good hygiene, we are giving our immune system thumbs up to fight these things, even when we don't know we've contacted them. It doesn't affect us. I've managed patients that had tuberculosis, and I never coughed for once or had anything similar to tuberculosis. Why? I was relying on my immune system while I took proper precaution. But of course, you can take all the precaution and still be exposed. But you can be exposed and not come down with it if you have good immune system. And that's another area I want us to take out of this discussion. So when we ask you to be healthy, to stay healthy, it's because we want your immune system to be strong to fight anything that you come across, anything that you come across. And that's why you need to pay attention to your health, your personal life. We tell you to eat well. It's because we want you to live long, because we want you to stay healthy, because we want you to drink pure and clean water. It's because we want you to stay healthy. And that is it.
Very interesting that you mentioned precaution, especially for health workers who have to deal and face with these illnesses every time we experience an epidemic or an outbreak of any sort. For surveillance, prevention, control, especially for health workers, because I'm worried for health workers.
Yeah.
During COVID, we had health workers who came down with COVID.
Lost a lot of them.
Lost some. So what should health workers particularly be intentional about in this season?
Now, you see, like I use myself as example, now obey universal precautions, okay? Where you need to use face mask, use. Though cholera today, we're not going about face mask because it's not spread by air, okay? Fine. But then, as a health worker, use face mask where you have to. Wash your hands every time you come in contact with a patient. And then you wash with soap. No, we say wash your hand. It is not just water. Soap and water. And then you use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer to dry up your hands because it will kill off 99.9% of the bacteria. Having done this, then we leave every other thing. So practice universal precaution as a health worker, okay? And then we leave the remaining.
To God.
Yes, to God.
All right. Well, kudos to all health workers out there. We really do appreciate your commitment to saving lives. Well, let's come back to vaccines. I've heard that there's a vaccine for cholera. However, I'm hearing that it's not being introduced to our national routine immunization.
Yes, it's not introduced yet because it's available but not in this part of the world yet. Now, that's why I would still latch on. Let's pay attention to prevention. Yes, since we don't have the vaccines as much. Now, if you mention vaccine, an average Nigerian will run away because we've been reading stories about the COVID vaccines and the negativities associated with it. So even if you come tomorrow and say, cholera vaccine, you will stand there, you go shout, tire.
But is that the reason? Because I also, from my research, I heard that anytime we have an outbreak, like the 2020, 21, the federal government always, in collaboration with international bodies, bring the vaccines over to trade. So, is there why is there like a holdback in introducing the vaccine to? Is it because of the people's reception to it?
No, at times it's a cost as well. If you remember that during the COVID issue, we had decisions as to which of the vaccines are we taking. Is it AstraZeneca? Is it this? Because of the cost and all that. So, yes, overhead cost. So there are a lot of things involved in it. But now, like I said, because of the news, information spreads like wildfire. So because of the news we're hearing now, people are not going to rush into accepting or taking any form of vaccine. Rather, they will want to do the preventive. And then the world is moving away from the treatment to prevention. And that's why we are shouting here now. We're shouting here now that you should pay attention to your health. Stay healthy is better than treating any form of ailment. Vaccines are available, especially for travelers, people going to the high area, dense areas and all that. And that's one thing. When that thing happened, the government officials came to us and asked, have you been vaccinated? I wasn't. I wasn't vaccinated. Most of the others were, but I didn't tell them that I wasn't. They just gave, I think it was an umbrella answer, yes, but I kept quiet. But I knew I took my own life into my hands because at that point I wasn't ready to go. I actually just recovered from an ailment and I just needed to walk. So I told them, look, I'm ready to work. Nothing will happen. And I'll obey. Since it is cholera and I know how cholera spreads, it's no contact. So I avoided it. If I want to attend, so I will glove twice. I made sure every universal protocol was followed. And I was fine until we were able to rid that community of the whole case of cholera. So it all depends on what you know and how to do and doing it the right way should be done. So vaccines are available for health people who need it, especially if you're in an endemic area where it is ravaging. You need the vaccine. So you can approach the government, they'll make it available. Remember, for each time it outbreaks, they will isolate the virus and develop a vaccine for it, because there are strains of Vibrio cholerae.
Right.
It's not just one strain. Just like, and that's why vaccine for HIV is becoming an issue, because there are strains, various types of bacteria, various types of viruses. Exactly. So they will develop the vaccine for that particular one and then give it. So that's why they mention strains, and those are the challenges that comes with making the vaccine universally available, because of the strains and various types that exist.
All right, fair enough. That's a great insight. Well, not to scare anyone, but for the purpose of, raising more clamor on why people should become very intentional, especially now that, cholera is quite endemic in some parts of the country. What are the severity of this? What's the complication that comes with it? I know death is like the final bus stop, but how crazy and intense can it be?
Look, starting from severe dehydration, that's why I mentioned about some guys that you'll be treating them. You don't say that the eyes have gone in, the mouth, everywhere is so like the skull. You can actually look at a human and picture the skull already showing. So it's just skin covering that skull. So from severe dehydration, they could have organ failure, multiple organ failure, especially the kidneys may fail. And when this happens, death is imminent. So from severe dehydration to organ failure to death if untreated. So those are the complications that can arise from cholera. And that's how cholera kills. Hypovolemic shock is one of them. That is, as a result of losing the body fluids, the volume of blood that is available for circulation drops drastically. Then the heart may fail from not having enough blood to circulate. So these are ways that...
how long does it incubate for?
Like I said, some can actually start up within hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and some can last up to weeks. It all depends on the strain that is available at that time.
I've also heard that some people do not show asymptomatic.
Exactly. That's why I said some people. Yes, and that's why I talked about good immune system.
Problem.
So if you have a good immunity, you may actually contact the Vibrio cholerae. For instance, if somebody had it and then I touched the door, and I have good immunity, or probably I even have good personal hygiene, and I just wash up my hands and all that, there won't be any issues. I may not even know. Or worst case scenario, even if by careless way...
Wait, it's possible that you come in contact with it and take immediate caution and you're safe?
Good hand washing.
Oh.
Yes, of course, it won't bite its way into my skin. It can only remain on the palm. It's now when I eat without washing my hand that I now ingest the bacteria. So now ingesting the bacteria would go in different ways. Either my immune system handles it and destroys it, or I will start suffering for it and then quickly take precaution and survive. That's why you see people that survive, because probably measures were taken on time to mitigate the complication of it.
Well, thank you very much for such great insight and education on cholera. This is an eye-opener for myself, and I believe for the rest of us listening this morning. Thank you, Dr. Chukwuma Okoli, for always being here and doing this with us.
You're welcome.
All right, we're 2 minutes down to time, and it's a wrap for Solutions Clinic this morning. We'll be back next week, Monday, to discuss another subject in the world of health. Please ensure that you wash your hands regularly and make sure to drink clean water. One way I know for sure that you can attest and ascertain that your water is clean is by parboiling or boiling the water, whichever works for you. We have kettles these days, even though we know the light is a challenge. But by any means, you're cooking, you're already boiling the water, of course, that you use to cook. So if you're drinking directly from the tap, for some people that I know cannot afford to buy sachet water or chooses to drink water, from the tap, please make sure to boil this water properly. And like he said, there's the cleaner they use for the wells, and if you can get that by any means possible, please ensure water guard. Please make sure to do that. We don't want to have cholera right here in Oyo State or even anywhere in Nigeria. We're hoping that the affected persons are treated and made whole as soon as possible. Thank you so much for being a part of Solutions Clinic this morning. Like I always say, a healthy life is your ticket to a wealthy life. Good morning to you. My name is Vic Riches.